Hope you all slept well and are looking forward to the reveal of moths, and also an opportunity for us to continue to talk about the climate emergency, COP26, and energy, and the natural energy systems, and on all that energy that keeps us alive, as well as some of the energy decisions we have to make as time goes by, to conserve it and to use it better. So I think Jenny's right. We should be using the chat function. Well, you can do what you like, but if we have a chat going on in the chat function about what people are seeing and about any thoughts about energy, that's great. And also, do you remember, those of you that were here last night, we talked about any messages that you might have for those world leaders or people that make decisions. You could type up some of those messages really, and maybe get a chat about that. But we'll start off, ping on time over to Richard. Oh no, I know what I was going to do first. I was going to just say hello to the presenters quickly, just to make sure they're all well and okay. So I am going to say hello to Simon. Hello, Simon.
Good morning, everybody. It's a bit overcast in Exeter, but it's not raining. So, and I've got moths to show you, a nice variety of moths, 4 or 5 species, including one that I was really hoping I might be able to show you. So yeah, that's the trap there, light on, but yeah.
Good, thank you. And see you later. Amy, hello.
Good morning. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Naomi. Hello, everyone. Yep, I was tipping rain out of the egg boxes this morning. Bit wet here, but I have 4 moths to show you. So
brilliant. We're looking forward to it. And then Ellie Harrison. Hello.
Hi everyone. I'm about 3 meters away from my bed, so nice and dry and warm. I'm representing Glasgow Community Energy. I'm going to tell you about our exciting new project that we just launched in Glasgow.
Yeah, nice to see you, Ellie, and welcome to Watch Moths. Laura and your gang. Hello, Laura.
We're here at Snapdragons and it is very, very wet. So we're sheltering in the buildings. But between the 2 traps, we've got 8 moths that we caught last night. So look forward to showing you those.
Great, thank you. And is John Walters here yet? No?
Not yet.
No.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye open.
Let's say hello to Richard Fox then.
Hi there. It's wet here. I'm just up the road from Amy, so not surprisingly, it's similar weather. It was raining really hard a minute ago. It seems to be easing up. So hopefully I'll be able to put this umbrella down. I'm crouched over the moth trap just down here with an umbrella, but it might be quite difficult juggling the phone and the umbrella and the moths. So hopefully I'll be able to put the umbrella down in a minute.
Yeah. Well, I think actually, Richard, Jenny, you tell me if I've forgotten anybody.
You've got Chloe and me out an energy team, but we're behind the scenes.
Yes, I could introduce you each time. But let's stay with Richard and have a look at what you've found, Richard.
Okay, great. So it's obviously been wet and windy overnight, as it probably has for most people. I'm just going to put my umbrella down. I'm going to turn my camera around. So this is my moth trap here, trusty ID book. As you can see, no mow May is going well on the lawn, and there are a few moths. So hopefully you'll be able to see them okay.
Yeah, beauty.
So that's a brimstone moth there, that nice yellow one. Really common moth, occurs across almost the whole of the UK. Moth that's doing very well. Down in the bottom here, we've got a few hairy things, Inferior Moths. It's difficult to get the focus, isn't it? So this big one here with its legs stuck out in front of it is a pale tussock. I'll see if I can Oh, it's cold and wet. Come on, come on. Whoa. There we are. It's woken up a little bit. Really nice feathery antennae for smelling the females, and really nice furry moth. And that pale tussock is one of these moths that's spreading northwards. I was talking about last night. A number of our species in the UK, which have traditionally only been found in the warmer southern parts of Britain, but have been spreading northwards. So pale tussock has been spreading north, up in northern England, really. It's spread quite a lot over the past few decades as a result of the warming climate. Under here, oh, there's another moth there. That's so a lot of moths have kind of weird names, weird and wonderful, I should say, names. But this one is very nice because this is treble lines. It's got 3 lines on it. So that's quite nice and easy to remember. Ah, that's good. And then here we've got, this is one of the moths that Simon mentioned yesterday. I'll put it down so it's a bit more still. Hopefully I can get a clearer shot of it. Can you see that okay?
Oh, yeah, I can. Yeah.
So that is a Scalloped Hazel. So Simon mentioned when Simon was going around his garden, looking at the all the plants that he's put in to encourage moths. I think he mentioned Scalloped Hazel. All of these moths that we're looking at feed as caterpillars on broadleaf trees and shrubs. So they're on things like oak, and we're lucky to our next door neighbours have got an oak tree in their garden, but also things like hawthorn and hazel, which are easy to grow, and they're not, not big plants. They're easy enough to grow in a normal garden. So that's good. Down here there is also a muslin moth, another furry thing. You can see that okay?
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's got a sort of fairy body, and the wings look very they're not furry. So what are moth wings covered in?
Yeah, so moth, I'll come back to me. So moth wings are covered in little scales. They're like the roofs, like the tiles on the roof of a house, and those scales are what gives all moths and butterflies, for that matter, all of their colours and textures and patterns on their wings. And that's also the stuff that rubs off if you ever handle a moth to help it out of the house at night or something like that, and you get this sort of dusty stuff on your fingers. Those are the scales from the wings coming off on your fingers.
And when it's rainy and cold, Richard, like it is,
yeah,
do you know how you have big furry moths and little small ones and shiny ones and so on? Are some of them better suited for different weather climes and get affected more by rain?
Well, it's interesting that actually you'd think that all of the moths that come out in winter. Oh, I've just found another one. Sorry, I'm still turning over the egg boxes, and this is another furry one. So I'm just going to switch back to the camera view. This here is a Brindle Beauty.
Oh.
It's a really furry thing. This is quite an early flying species. It starts to come out in sort of March time, where you can imagine its furriness would be really useful. That's kind of coming to the end of its flight period now for the year. And that's also a moth that's being affected by climate change because it's coming out earlier in the year. This is another thing that we see a lot. Another common impact of climate change on moths and butterflies and all sorts of other creatures is that the warming climate is altering the times of year that they're active. And Brindle Beauty is coming out a few weeks earlier now than it used to back in the 1970s, which is not necessarily good news. It kind of depends on what sort of moth you are. But coming back to what you were saying about how furry they are, you'd think that moths that fly very early in the year, in early spring and even in the winter time, would be more furry than ones that fly in summer. But it doesn't really work like that. Some of the moths that are active in the winter are not really furry ones. So it more depends on the family that they belong to.
Ah, it's interesting because I've always wondered that because they're so various. I wondered what the different reasons are. Well, thank you, Richard, for your moths, and we'll move on. We'll move on to who's next. Simon is next on my list. Simon, how What has your garden fared last night? We enjoyed seeing it, by the way. We enjoy seeing all the plants that you've been putting in for your moths and other creatures.
I'm a fraud, really, because my wife does most of the gardening, you know, and I do the allotment mostly. So, you know, gratuitously claiming all the credit. Yeah, pretty good. Nice to see your moths there, Richard. Nice variety. So, yeah, I'm also pleasantly surprised because looking out last night, it didn't look very promising, but I'll just swing around. That's my trap there. It's a homemade trap made out of exterior plywood. And then I've got this fairly low wattage 15-watt fluorescent tube on mine. So it's sympathetic to the neighbours because it's not very powerful. Also, what I've started to do, something I picked up from Will Scott from last year, is putting stems of plants over the trap to give somewhere for the moths to rest, and that might encourage more to actually enter the trap. But you want to know what I've got, don't you? So
yeah, that would be. I would love to know what you've got. Well, we would all love to know what you've got, I'm sure.
Love to know. So yeah. It seems like it's the Treble lines show tonight, which is great. A spring moth, which Richard just showed you. And I've just put one on this picture there. It's 3 Go Faster stripes. As Richard said, nicely named, this one. Yeah. You know, this is a moth that should occur in every garden, really. If you've got dandelions and plantain and various shrubs or herbs in your lawn, if you let your lawn grow, you know, a bit taller, I swing around, you can probably see that we do that here, then you're going to get this this moth, because this caterpillar feeds on a wide range of those sort of grassland herbs. So that's the treble lines, of which I've got 5 or 6, I think, in the trap. This is one of the carpet moths that tend to rest distinctively with that triangular shape, that delta wing shape, lying quite flat. And it's really variable in colour, this moth. I guess depending on food plants and depending on its position in the country. This one's quite a dark one, but you do get lighter ones with lots of orange in the wing.
They lie really, really flat, don't they, Simon?
They do. Yes, you know, if maybe I'll try and mount it on a piece of wood and it'll just disappear. Beautiful. Right, okay, so I've also got, there we go. And so I'm really excited. As Richard said, this is the one. I'll try and get it out in a minute because it's probably a bit dark in the egg box, but this is the Scalloped Hazel. Yeah. It's really rather beautiful. So I'll try and handle it in a minute and show it again. Yeah. But that's the one that, if I swing around, there's my hazel tree. Oh. You know, it's almost certainly the caterpillars were feeding on that last year, and they've then pupated in the ground, and that one has hatched out freshly this spring. So that's nice to see.
Do they sort of somehow, do the caterpillars burrow in the ground to turn into cute cocoons?
Yeah. Some of them go quite deeply. I think this is one of the ones that goes quite deeply. I've got something really nice to show you in a second, which certainly does burrow quite deep into the ground, I guess, to ensure that there's a nice stable environment, frost-free, but steady temperature and humidity.
And if we bring it back to that sort of the energy needed to conserve themselves and then turn themselves into moth, if they've got a nice steady even environment, they can manage that easier, can't they?
Yeah, I'm just going to go around and show you my big find of the night.
We're looking forward to it.
Well, can you see it? If I just just keep the camera there, can you actually see the moth where it is?
Is it under the handle?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a first thing that my eyes set on this morning. Beautiful position, isn't it? With its legs stretched out and its wings behind it. That's the great prominent, which is a moth that feeds on oak. And I mentioned in my intro last night my proximity to woodland here in Exeter. And so that's almost certainly flown over from the woodland about 500 meters away.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. So what was it again? Something prominent. Was it an oak prominent?
Great
Prominent.
Yeah.
Lovely and quite green. I suppose the trunks of those trees, it would just disappear into them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, actually, Naomi, because one of the distinguishing features of that moth from other moths like lobster moth is the fact that it appears very green. And indeed, the caterpillars, John, if John's tuning in late, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got one of the caterpillars, although it's a bit early for them. But they're lush green, a lovely sort of lime green with creamy stripes on the side. And I suppose that helps it blend with the oaky background as well.
Yeah, well, that's lovely. So what a haul then, actually, given the weather and all. It's a nice range of moths.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, I think with my trap, it's not very powerful, but you get nice diversity and you don't get too many of one species. So when you're starting out, that's helpful not to be overwhelmed.
Yeah, it is. And thank you very much. And
Right.
chip in on the chat if you like, Simon, and if you've got questions to say about other things that people find, do join in. But we are due now to talk to snapdragons, and Laura out there in snapdragons in Plymouth on their wet.
Oh,
you've had a
I'm
wet.
here.
Yeah.
There we go.
Hello.
Yes. So I'm with Dave and Chris and some friends, and what I'll do is I'll flip the camera again and I'll film, and Dave and Chris can show you what they've got.
Yeah.
There we go.
Morning, everybody. My small trap ended up with 6 moths in. A couple of them have actually disappeared for now. One of the nice ones is this small brown one here on top is a common Quaker. It's normally out earlier in the year, so this is coming to the end of its flight time, but it's actually looking quite a nice, pristine looking actually for the time of year.
Do you think he's a bit late because of the weather?
Possibly. It's hard to say. They have got quite a long flight season. But normally by this time of the year, they're looking a bit worn and tattered, but this has actually managed to look, keep himself in good condition. Has obviously found a nice hiding places during the day, and probably not flying when it's been too bad weather. So he's looking quite good.
Yeah.
This lovely little sort of grey sable one is called a muslin. It's a male. You can sort of see his feathery antennae there sticking out. Females, you don't see very often. They're more found during the day, and they're pure white with like black spots on the wings.
Mm.
It's a nice little one. This one down here, which is just pumping its wings up, is another little sort of brown job. This was called a Vines rustic, and they're just starting to sort of come into their flight season now. So this was quite a fresh one, probably emerged over the last day or so.
Yeah, beauty.
Underneath we have a very common sort of early summer moth called a heart and dart. Again, another sort of little brown job, but a very common moth. Some people can get hundreds in their moth trap in a night. if the conditions are good.
Yeah.
In there.
And
I've
where do they live? what-
I think these are more sort of a grass feeder, so the caterpillars will feed on various grasses and different sort of shrubby, sort of herbaceous plants, and they'll sort of hide away during the day in meadows in the bottom of sort of grass stems and things. They'll just be very good at hiding away. I've also bought a couple of others. One that Richard was talking about yesterday is one of the success stories. Unfortunately, it's in a pot because I don't really want it to fly away. This is a Jersey mocha, which I caught in my garden last night. Plymouth is actually quite a good stronghold for this species, so we actually do quite well. Quite a few of us mothers in Plymouth to manage to catch this species, which is an oak feeder. And probably conversely, like whereas most of this year the moths have been in very low numbers, I've actually had more Jersey mochas this spring so far than I've had before. So obviously it had a very good breeding season last summer, and a lot of the caterpillars survived and emerged this year.
Brilliant.
Probably the best one is probably a mother's favourite. It's not a bit of twig. This is actually a buff tip, and their camouflage is designed to look like a broken off birch twig. So if you see it fed on, it looks like the end of the twig. On the side, it looks like the end of the twig, but also it actually looks like the bark as well.
Oh, look at that.
And that is always a mother's favourite, and it's been everybody's favourite here so far this morning.
Yeah, they're just they're incredible the way they just look
Really,
like a twig, don't they?
Absolutely amazing camouflage. And if I left this branch like this, it would just sit there all day because it relies solely on its camouflage to avoid detection by predators, namely birds.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, and just one last quick one before I pass over to Dave.
Yeah.
Another moth which is very good for camouflage that I had last night, and this was called a waved umber. So if that was on some bark, you just wouldn't find it. You know, it perfectly breaks up the moth's outline, all the different sort of lines and patches. And that's another moth which seems to have shown very well this spring. I've had quite a lot of them this year.
Yeah, in fact, I that was the first moth that I found this year, because I've been practicing with the moth traps that we're loaning out to schools.
Excellent.
And I just got, in fact, I just got the one, but
Yeah.
the one waved umber, and but you know, the Moths UK site on Facebook and are they on Twitter as well? They helped identify it, because I wasn't totally sure, Chris. So
yes, I'm on that site quite a lot, the Facebook one, so I do help you. It is good if people are unsure what they've got, just post it on there, and there are plenty of people that will be able to help out and let you know what species is there. So,
yeah.
Those are my bits. I shall pass you over to Dave now.
Yeah, thank you for helping out last night and this morning. Hello, Dave.
Hello. Yeah, very wet and windy in Plymouth here last night, so not many moths. I've got one or two which are I think we haven't seen from Richard, Simon or Chris. Can you see that square spot?
Yeah.
Lovely patterning on that, and a nice bright one. This one is called a small phoenix. It's got a lovely netted pattern on it. Can you see that one all right?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. And that's really pretty. Where does that live normally? What's its caterpillars tend to eat?
I can't remember what that feeds on. Sorry, Richard will tell us.
Yeah, that'll go on the chat.
It's quite a common moth in gardens.
Yeah.
Flame shoulder, I don't think we've seen. Another very common moth. Most gardens will have those. And the white one there is called a common wave.
Oh, I didn't notice that when you first showed it, but all these moths that you catch, they all seem to be quite sort of solidly staying put. Quite, they're not fluttering around. Is that because of the temperature, or is?
Yes, it's fairly cool.
Yeah.
Moths that fly at night, they generally rest up during the day,
Yeah.
and they'll often keep quite still. If it's too warm or they're in the sun, they won't be happy, and then they'll flutter around and want to go and find some shade and some shelter.
Yeah.
The yellow moths in there are the Brimstone Moths. Can't
Mm.
remember if we've seen those before.
Yep.
Basically, the habitat here, we're in a parkland in the middle of Plymouth. There's quite a few trees and shrubs within the park, and lots of gardens around, so there is a good variety of food plants for a wide range of common moths. And on the site here at Snapdragons, they're going to be improving the grassland and planting lots of shrubs and some trees, which will only make things better over the coming years.
That's really good to hear, and I'm glad you've got some shelter there to.
Yeah, we're indoors.
We're inside
It's really
today, yeah.
miserable outside.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And how has everybody? Because I know you've got some youngsters there and friends. Have they all enjoyed? Have they all enjoyed meeting the moths?
Oh, they've gone. They loved seeing them this morning. Absolutely loved seeing them this morning.
Good. Good. Do you think you've got young budding mothers now?
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I hope you make a nice list of the moths that you found for Snapdragons, and perhaps in the future you can compare.
Yeah,
what you found, and it can be the start of a lovely record of the biodiversity that you've got on site.
Yeah, we've already invited them back for August when it's a bit warmer.
Great, that's really nice, and good to see a morning view of the site. And keep us informed of progress, Laura and James and friends.
Will do.
You will do.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So we've had 3 very contrasting sites so far, and a wonderful range of moths. We're now bringing the story quickly back, still in Plymouth actually, back to a chap called Paul Elliott, who couldn't make this morning, but he has made a film about his view of the Plymouth City Council Climate Emergency Action Plan. He's responsible for some of that delivery of action by people of Plymouth to make Plymouth a better place to live and to do their bit towards keeping the climate change, which we're all facing, to as a lower level as possible. So shall we go over, Jenny, to his film?
Hello Moth fans, my name's Paul, and I've been asked to make a short video to explain how I'm helping Plymouth tackle the climate emergency and get to net zero by 2030. So a bit about me, I live with my 3 girls and my wife at the top of a very wet and windy hill in Efford. I thought I might be able to do this from my garden actually, this video, but it is brutal out there. And as much as I love moths, I'm not prepared to get that cold or wet for them. I hope you don't mind. So I'm filming this from the safety and coziness of my repurposed coal shed, which I'm quite proud of, which is why I'm showing you. And yeah, I think it makes a nice little office for me and my wife. You know, so government take coal out of the energy mix for the UK, and I simply repurpose coal into a home office. So I feel like I'm contributing in the right way there somehow. Professionally, so I am the low carbon city manager for the council. Well, that's my job title. You can make a decision about how professional I am. And effectively that means my remit is reducing the city's emissions to net zero by 2030. So I need to do that in lots of different ways because there is no silver bullet for this problem. In terms of how we want to do that for the council, we've led a very action-based approach. There's been enough words written about climate change, and you know, we could take a year or 2 to write a strategy that would get us to a certain point, but that's just theory. And so we've kind of hopefully gone with a practical and more focused way of trying to achieve our aim. So we have action plans that we produce every year. The current one has just over 100 actions contained within that set out various bits and pieces we're going to do to reduce our carbon emissions, and they're broken down into different themes: mobility, buildings, energy, waste, and engagement. And so in each of those areas lies actions which we think will help us get to our target. But the key thing, I think, for all of this, the key area that everybody needs to pick up on is engagement, and bringing people along and making people aware. I think the Climate Change Commission said that about 60% of all reductions need an element of engagement and behaviour change. And if you don't talk to people, you're not going to get it, which is why I think this is great. Whether you use a moth to communicate, and a moth is the trigger for someone to get involved, or whether it's financial, saying you can save some energy by sticking a bit of kit on your house, some insulation, some PV, whatever floats people's boat. If it floats it enough to get to the point where they take some action, which is going to get us to net zero, then that's a winner for me. And so, if I'm asked what is my priority, where would you focus your efforts? It's what is going to get people to make a shift, to get the bus, or to buy an electric vehicle, or whatever it is that gets them to do something about the climate emergency. I think that's my bag. Guess in terms of what I do, so I'm very happy to save energy. I don't like to get up before 9 o'clock on a Saturday. That's a great way of saving my own energy. But I do like to, when we did go in the office, I ride my bike, etc. I'm fortunate enough to have some panels on my roof, so I do kind of live some of the talk that I talk and the air that I breathe effectively. I like moths. I've hold my hands up. I've not made one of the recycle moths yet. I have got the link now, and I'm sure my girls would be happy to do that. But yeah, I hope that's been a bit informative, and I'm available at the council, so just drop me a line. lowcarboncity@plymouth.gov.uk if you have any suggestions as to how we can reach our target. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Paul. I like the fact that he was down there in his coal shed office, working away and responsible for all that. And he's maybe he'll come along next time and start becoming a mother. Sounded a bit keen. And he's obviously going to make some moths for our Moths to a Flame mass participation installation. So that all looks good. We're actually now going on to Ellie, who's new to Watch Moths as well. We're hoping as the months go by, we will introduce new people as well as go to different places, and we'll be seeing, like we said, we'll be seeing moths from different places, as well as hearing about how communities are delivering projects that make a difference to their place. So, hello, Ellie.
Hi, Naomi. It's been very enjoyable so far this morning, learning so much about moths.
Are you a bit of a mother, or is this a first for you?
It's an introduction for me, but I feel like I've learned a lot, and now I understand more about what you're doing. So it's been really useful. Yeah. But I'm here to talk about the Glasgow Community Energy Project, and we're going to kick off with a little film. Actually, it's about 2 minutes, which Jenny's going to run. And then I'll follow up and tell you a little bit more about where the idea came from. Solar panels in Glasgow, we must be crazy. But look, the sun's out today. The sun is out today.
From being up here, you can kind of see all these roofs. Some of them have solar panels, which is fantastic. Most of them don't. And you think, well, how can we all be empowered to actually make use of this technology free from the sun?
For Glasgow City Council, they've set the target to get to net zero by 2030. So there's a huge job to do with decarbonising our energy supply across the city.
The system we use here is one of a society for the benefit of the community. It will sell electricity both to the council and to the grid. It would hope to make a small profit, and that small profit will go directly to the people of this area.
You've got a whole generation of children growing up into a world that we have messed up, and that they have the burden of that. And I think it's really important for them and their mental health to know actually that it's not all on them, and that we are taking steps to remedy past mistakes and to work with the technology that we now have available to us to fix some of the messes we've made.
Yeah, we are disrupting the way the energy system works. We have these massive big multinationals selling energy to houses, making a huge profit. So we're coming in with a completely different model that local people can invest in and benefit directly from. Anyone in the local area can invest in this solar technology, help address the climate emergency head on and benefit the local community. It's a brilliant solution. So I wanted to screen that this morning. The project's been a very long time in the making, and we've just launched that film last week with our community share offer, and we're inviting local people to invest in the project, to buy shares in the project, to become members of the cooperative. But yeah, it's been an epic adventure to get to this point.
Yeah, and it's Glasgow Community Energy, isn't it? And they how long have they existed in Glasgow, Ellie?
So we've been going for, well, since 2018. The Scottish Government is quite good at supporting community energy. It has a special funding scheme to help community groups get off the ground. So we got a grant from them in 2018. But the project itself kind of evolved out of a project I began in 2015 called the Radical Renewable Art and Activism Fund. Because I'm trained as an artist, and a bit like you guys at Art and Energy, kind of went more into community activism when I realised sort of how significant the climate emergency was. And that was really going back to 2009 and the COP in Copenhagen, and just really getting a sense of the fact that, you know, we needed to take some serious action to reduce carbon. So I particularly focused on carbon intensive industries, transport, and I do a lot of campaigning around improving public transport, which is one of my big passions, and energy. So I began at that point, because I was still working quite a bit in the art world as well, looking at how funding for the arts was increasingly coming from corporate sponsorship from fossil fuel companies, which was really not a good idea, because it was you know, just using art to legitimize this industry that's fueling climate change. So I wanted to try and come up with an alternative funding source for radical art and activism, that you could make art, you know, that was taking on fossil fuel companies or taking on a lot of these other injustices that are causing climate change, but you needed an autonomous source for that. So the idea was to invest in renewable energy and then use profits from selling that energy to fund radical art and activism. And actually Chloe was involved in the project right back at the beginning in 2016. Chloe from Art and Energy came up to Glasgow to help us brainstorm about how we would make this happen. But that kind of evolved into Glasgow Community Energy, because I guess I realised the significant significance of a place, you know, and about having a local community buy-in, and that is really important when you're thinking about where you're going to site your renewable energy technology and how that technology connects to the local area. So that's been 3 years since we started on the Glasgow community energy journey, and we managed to install the panels on the roofs of 2 schools last summer, well, in autumn during COVID. And we just got to this point where we launched, so it's a very happy week for us.
Well done. Congratulations, Ellie. That's we look forward to hearing more stories about what you're doing up in Glasgow, and obviously we'll be talking to you about our installation and working with schools up there as well. We've got Play Scotland are wanting to work with us in schools across Glasgow, so we look forward to talking to you more. And I loved the fact that first thing this morning when you just got out of bed, you said you got woken up by the solar panels above your roof in your little cozy cabin.
Yeah, the inverters, they're very noisy if anybody's ever slept next to one.
Yeah. Okay, well, see you soon, and we're going to get back to moths and mothers, and Jenny has put a little note saying that Simon has something to wave at us before we go to Amy. Is that, have you?
Yeah, I've got the great prominent.
You've got one as well.
Well, that's the great.
No, you had it, didn't you? And yeah.
And I just wanted to show, because it is fantastic moth. Martin's just put some nice information in the chat that furry moths tend not to feed as an adult, and they have to conserve energy. This is almost certainly a male. In fact, he's got his large antennae, so he'll have flown in from that woodland. I'm really hoping you can see that because it's so beautiful, warm colours. Couple of things. It's got these projections along the top of the wings, which help to break it up when it's at rest. So if you break up the outline of the moth, then it's going to be less likely to be detected by a bird and eaten. And also, it's got stripy legs, and you quite often find that moths have got stripy legs. And again, I think that's because when the legs are stretched out like that, if they were all one colour, it would be more easy for a bird to actually spot it. So when you look closely at these things, they are absolute marvels of genetic development. And just sorry, before Amy, sorry, Amy, I'm stealing your thunder. The Scalloped Hazel.
Oh yeah, I can see.
Again, really nicely named because it's got a wavy edge to the wings, and it's a nice pristine one. It's actually got quite a sheen.
It has, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we were talking about all the different wings. Thank you, Simon. Were you going to show us? No, we'll go on to Amy and see what ones you found, Amy. Thank you for being here.
Hello again, no problem. I've only got 4, as I said, and I think I've identified them correctly, but please, moth experts, do chip in and give any information that you would like about them. But I'm mainly here also to show you my favourite thing in the garden at the moment.
Oh, hello, Robin.
This is Robin, and Robin helps me look at moths. So we're going to do it together, aren't we, Robin? Yeah. Right, okay. So I'm going to turn the camera around. Robin's going to hold the moth boxes and we're going to talk about them. Right, here's the first one, darling. I'm going to, if you can hold it as I think that's mouse. There was a mouse in the box over winter, obviously, and there's lots of mouse evidence. But okay, tell us about this moth, Robin. What can you see?
I can see
Keep it still.
That it has 3 stripes on each wing, and it's a nice chocolatey brown colour.
Okay, and we think this one's called a treble lines, which has been spotted already this morning. Yeah. So that's our first one.
It's lovely though.
And then we've got another one that's been spotted this morning. What can we see here, Robin?
Yeah, it's a mouse poo. Oh, that one just moved.
That
This
one there?
kind of has stripy legs.
Yeah.
And it's got like some, like a brownish, whitish colour on the side of its wing, and like a nice dark brown, smooth colour on its back.
Yeah, and it's a kind of flame, isn't it? It's on its shoulder, so it's called a flame shoulder.
Flame shoulder.
Yeah, another one we've seen, if that's right. And another one here. You can see how wet the egg boxes are. It's ridiculous. Right, this one's tucked in a bit, and Simon had a carpet. This is a carpet moth. So again, it's resting in that position.
Very beautiful.
You like the patterns on that one, Robin? We think that's a garden carpet, unless anyone would like to correct us. Don't know if you can see it.
It's sneaking at the bottom there of the egg.
Yeah, it is.
box,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. That's a bit better there.
Yeah, and again, they all lie flat, really flat.
Yeah.
Carpet.
And now we're going on to our last moth after this.
We are. This is our last moth, and this one I don't think we've seen yet this morning. And it's a big. It's quite a big one, isn't it?
Don't get the mess way over here.
And we think this is a swallow prominent. So again, another one of the prominent moths. It's rain, Robin. It's not mouse. You can see the prominence there on its back. I had a quick look in my favourite moth book, which is all about names, and wondering why it was called a swallow prominent, because, and it says in the book that it's nothing to do with swallows, because swallows usually arrive in April. But it's possibly a misspelling of sallow, or a mistake, where it's actually meant to be like a sallow prominent moth, which is sallow being willow, which is the food plant of the larvae. So, but it is a rather big and rather beautifully coloured moth, and pretty happy with that one this morning. So
I love that. What was it? Swallow prominent. And because it should be sallow, I presume it's young feed of willows and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Is that right, John? Rick, is that right?
Yeah, feeds on sallow. Yeah. Apologies for my late arrival.
No, don't worry. Just making sure that you're okay, John.
Yeah, I just completely forgot. Actually, I just got.
Well done. I'm glad I didn't. But Robin, are you becoming a moth expert then?
No.
You're not. Well, it seems to me you are. You probably know more than most of us in this room by now, especially for a young person. So thank you for helping out.
She's the energy bit here with all of this.
Yeah, I can see that.
I want my food.
And she needs some she's having pancakes, so she's desperate to go. So we'll that's us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. And yeah, I don't know what my favourite moth so far has been, the great prominent or the swallow prominent, or the brimstone. Beautiful brimstone. I love that yellow colour. Anyway, we are moving to John, who has provided another lovely film for us to see. But how are you this morning, John?
Very well, thanks. Yeah, I did get up early, but then I started doing something else, and I looked out the window. I thought, oh no, the moths. But anyway, I'm here just in time. That was a good time.
Which is good, because we were just thinking, shall we show the film without him and talk over it, or shall we leave it till next month? But we all look forward to your films.
Well, it's got some nice birds on it. Actually, you don't really need me to talk on it. There weren't that many moths. I recorded the film earlier in the week when it was actually dry, and but I got up really early, so a friend of mine set the moth trap, and then you can, if you turn up your volume, you should be able to hear the dawn chorus. So I got up about 4:30, and the dawn chorus was fantastic. It was, one of the better mornings for listening to that this year. Friend Robbie, who lives here at Brook Manor, he set the trap up, so I didn't have to go out and set it. But I got there early in the morning, just getting light, because at this time of year there's quite a few, obviously lots of nesting birds. So if they find a moth trap, they will come and raid it very early in the morning to feed their young. So you've got to get up early. A bit later in the season, when the birds stop nesting, it's not such a problem. I look around the trap. There's an early thorn sat on Robbie's door. Brimstone Moth. I'm sure you've seen a few of these already this morning. Lovely sulphur yellow moth, the sort of moth you catch right throughout the year, but others are spring moths, like the Hebrew character, one of the Ephosia's spring pine moths. Having quite a long season this year. And as we've just been seeing, the swallow prominent, this is a lesser swallow prominent, and this one has the big, like a sort of wedge. Actually, here's a picture which shows the difference. So the lesser swallow prominent has a thick wedge of white there, and the swallow has a thinner wedge. Here's the unfortunately named clouded drab moth. I quite like it, actually. It's quite a variable thing, but it's sadly called the clouded drab. And the flame shoulder sort of moth you catch actually right throughout the year, really, from this time of year right through till October. Treble lines moth, actually named after the 3 lines on its wings. Flame-looking moth, hiding away in there. And as I think you've just been mentioning, the great prominent. This is the prize catch of the night. An absolutely stunning moth, a big furry thing. It feeds on oak, and the caterpillars, I've reared them before. If you catch a female, the caterpillars are quite spectacular. Green carpet, again, one of those moths that you catch right throughout the year. Nice fresh one there. And then I didn't have too many moths, so rather than leave them in the trap, I just let them go in the vegetation. And then I took a few of them to photograph in situ in their natural habitat. Put that great prominent on a tree, mossy covered tree, and it just completely disappears. An amazing thing. And there's the lesser swallow prominent. The caterpillars feed on birch, and the moth is very camouflaged on a birch. I've never found one in the wild, but then it would be probably almost impossible to actually find one sitting on a birch tree if you didn't put there already. The lesser swallow prominent. Okay, thank you for watching.
Well, thank you, John. What was your favourite one out of all those?
Well, the great prominent is always nice to see. Big sort of furry thing, and it's so stunningly well camouflaged as well. Not a particularly common moth. You sort of catch a few. You never catch lots of them. You usually catch 1 or 2, and they're always, usually where there are oak trees. So that was the best one to see.
What about everybody here? You can put in chat what your favourite moth was, but I bet a lot of them will be the great prominent. I don't know whether anybody's saying. So thank you, John. And the week ahead for you, are you going to do any more mothing?
I might do. Yeah, I think the weather's meant to be getting better from Tuesday, so I'm actually out working various places doing bits of work which I haven't been able to do this week. I've not really been out at all. So, and I'm usually out every day, all day, every day this time of year. So I imagine I'll be out all hours. So probably not moth trapping so much, but going down to Cornwall, looking on some sand dunes down there one day. Maybe going up to look for the Osmia bicolour bee, which carries grass to cover its snail shell nest. Do that another day, and various things like that. Whatever else comes up.
Yeah, sounds really interesting to us that stay put more than that. And it also sounds like we could have a whole series of programs just on bees, or just on ants, or just on the insect world is just vast, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's 25,000 species of insects, plus all the spiders and other invertebrates and things. So there's plenty to keep you busy out there, and this is the peak time of year, obviously, for these creatures.
Yeah. Oh, well, good luck during the week.
Okay, thanks.
And pleased to see that you enjoy cycling up to your local moth traps.
Yeah, I do borrow my wife's electric bike some days, but I think I did actually go on my bike that day, because I was going somewhere else, and it's too valuable, that bike, so I never lock my bike up because no one would want to steal it. But my wife's bike is a bit expensive, so I can only take it to Brook Manor.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, but we all approve because of the, well, lots of reasons, but obviously keeping that whole use of fossil fuel down to the essentials. Thanks.
Thanks.
And next month, everybody, we are going, well, we're going to be covering some more of Exeter and Devon, but we're also going up, creeping up towards Glasgow. We're going to be in Somerset and seeing a big community project up there and some community energy being installed. So, and doing some more art and celebrating. We might even work with some schools on making a lot of moths to show you during the broadcast. So thank you all for coming along and watching the reveal. And I think that actually, if we all know what the weather's been like, such a fantastic array of moths seen and brought from a very wide range of different habitats as well. So thank you, Motha presenters, and thanks to the moths too. Jenny, is there anything that I've forgotten? I know one thing I have forgotten, which is the evaluation and getting the feedback about this.
Yeah.
Moths.
How about I share the screen for the website again, and in the meantime you pop that in the chat if you're able.
Yeah, I think that's
so we covered this last night, but just to remind you, mothstoaflame.art is the project website. We would really love you all to get involved in the wider project, to be inspired by today's moths, these little creatures that have braved the weather and come out, and yeah, we're really fortunate to have some amazing moths. There's such variety, it's fantastic. So talking of variety, there are loads of different ways to get involved in Moths to a Flame. As the project's developed and we've talked to different people, it really is a community project, and we like to think of it as a community project for a vast community, very widespread. And so hopefully there's something for everybody in there. If you've got other ideas for creativity to do with moths and energy, community, and taking that all important message up to COP26, up to Glasgow in November, then please do get in touch. There's the contact button up here. We'd love to hear from you. Equally, Naomi's going to be popping the link for the feedback questionnaire in the chat. So there are boxes in there for feedback. Positives and constructive criticism would be wonderful. Don't feel you have to fill the whole thing out, but any feedback is always welcome, especially when it comes to the funders and keeping them happy. So on the funding front, as we said yesterday, we do have funding for a substantial part of the project, but if you are able to donate a little, every little counts in terms of being able to reach more people, run more events, get more people involved, and amplify that message going up to world leaders. And talking of our funders, where is it? I've lost we've got loads of different people who are part of the team, including our wonderful mothers. So whether it's funders supporting in kind, just getting involved and helping spread the word and get more people involved as early there, please do get involved and come and join us. And those are some of our partners down the bottom, many logos, and we're adding to those on a pretty much daily basis because so many people are keen to get involved, send their message up to COP26. Yeah, it's fantastic. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, and that funny electronic form is there. You just click on that and it'll just take a couple of minutes and it will be very helpful. But anyway, we will see you next month, hopefully. I'm afraid we're going to probably be, I don't want to be nagging you, but we'll be reminding you just in case you've forgotten. And we'll be hoping to grow our audience as well and maybe become in person a little bit later on in the year. So please do stay in touch, and any suggestions very welcome. And hopefully you can go off and have your second breakfast or another cup of coffee, or and all have a really good month ahead of you.
I think Robin's pancakes sound amazing. I might have to go and see if I've got any eggs. We have been recording today's session, and we recorded last night's session. So if you weren't able to join us or if you missed bits, last night's session is already available on YouTube. We'll be doing a couple of social media posts today with the link to that. And as soon as I click end meeting, then it'll start. This morning's one will start to download onto my computer, and I'll be sharing that. So that should be available to share with others later on today. Thank you all for joining us, and see you next month for Watch Moths.
Yeah,
thanks everyone. Bye. See you next month.
Yeah.
Well
Bye.
done, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye from the great prominent.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.